Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Chief Justice says constitutional reform remains high on the agenda as the judiciary continues to work alongside the various stakeholders. The EMA, together with hundreds of volunteers, took to the shorelines of the Manzanillo Beach. And the Ministry of the People and Social Development launches its latest program aimed at reducing poverty. Thank you for joining us. The 2012-2013 Law Term opened in its traditional spectacular with the procession, or that should be procession of judges from the Holy Trinity to the Cathedral to the Hall of Justice. Chief Justice Ivor Archie, addressing the gathering of local legal luminaries, says constitutional reform remains high on the agenda as the judiciary continues to work alongside the various stakeholders, bringing this to reality.
The annual ceremonial start of the Law Term opened with the usual grandeur and traditional procession of judges from the Holy Trinity Cathedral to the Hall of Justice. It's at the Hall of Justice, Chief Justice Ivor Archie, after leading a congregation of judges, masters, magistrates and attorneys to mark the opening of the 2012-2013 Law Term, inspected members of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. However, in delivering the address to the opening ceremony at the Hall of Justice, Chief Justice Archie says proper constitutional reform remains on the cards as it can only aid in the further development of citizens.
Meaningful constitutional reform should remain high on the national agenda as a platform for the development of our people. It is that vision that energizes the judiciary's efforts to transform and to position itself as a critical support pillar. We recognize that the maintenance of public trust and confidence in the administration of justice is central to our remit. In that regard, we continue our efforts to ensure timely, fair, and effective delivery of justice through various initiatives.
The Chief Justice says steps are being taken towards reducing the delay in the handling of court matters. He adds that the move to abolish preliminary inquiries is something currently underway and will take some time before fully achieved.
It is a mammoth undertaking, and it is no surprise that in other jurisdictions like New Zealand, where similar reforms were undertaken, the lag between the passage of the relevant legislation and implementation of the reforms was more than a year. It has always been our position, and we so advised, that implementation could not realistically take place before the first quarter of 2013. And we in the judiciary never discussed or contemplated partial implementation. We have nevertheless agreed to a very ambitious timeline, and the start-up is now set for the beginning of January 2013.
Meanwhile, Chief Justice Ivor Archie took the time to bid farewell to High Court Judge Anthony Carmona, who was elected a judge of the International Criminal Court last year, as well as Justice Sebastian Vento, who retires from the bench this year.
After making a sterling contribution to the local bench, our Justice Carmona will be leaving us this year to take up a position on the International Criminal Court. He is the second person from this country to have achieved this honor. We are proud of his accomplishment, not just because he deserves it, but it confirms international recognition of the high quality of jurists that we can and do produce.
Among others to leave the bench this year is Justice of Appeal Humphrey Stallmeyer. The Chief Justice also took the time to pay homage to Justice Wendell Kangaloo, who remains under medical care following a tragic accident earlier this year. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
In other news, the Environmental Management Authority, the EMA, together with hundreds of volunteers, took to the shorelines of the Manzanillo Beach in an effort to clean up debris along its coast. The different types of debris found were marked and recorded as part of gaining a better understanding of the type of pollution that affects our beaches. The initiative was held to mark the annual International Coastal Cleanup, the ICC.
Scores of volunteers signed up and got suited in cleanup gear in an effort to pick up beach debris and litter along the Manzanillo coastline. The cleanup campaign is part of the annual International Coastal Cleanup hosted by the Environmental Management Authority, EMA. Crews were asked to fill out forms on the debris collected so that the Environmental Management Authority will have a better understanding of the waste that wash on shore and pass through our waterways. Corporate Communications Officer at the EMA, Nicole Bachan, took the time to explain to crews the significance of the day.
The importance of this exercise is data collection, and it is imperative that you will complete the forms, everything in the form as much as possible and as accurately as possible, so that we can get necessary data. And this data is necessary to inform the local, national, regional, and international bodies as to how we can better manage our waste. Waste management is a serious issue that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and this effort is to build awareness of the fact that we need to control how we dispose of our waste materials. And I would like to let you all know that this effort today should not stop here. It should be continued, and you all should pass the message on to your friends and families and relatives to get them on board and practice responsible practices.
Volunteers submitting reports on items collected note that plastic items continue to be the #1 pollutant along our shores.
So far, we also found a lot of plastic along the shore area. However, because we collected so much things, it doesn't reflect nicely on Trinidad and Tobago, and they're polluting the coastline.
Meanwhile, one EMA ambassador sought to remind the public of taking special care of the shorelines when visiting our beaches.
It's my advice to anybody who uses the beach or comes here to visit, who comes here to make a lime or make a cook, we encourage you to have a good time and cook what you want, but also try and walk with your garbage bags and throw away your garbage and all your food, because all this garbage could collect in the wildlife and it kills animals. We've encountered a dead turtle and some dead fish already. To keep TNT clean, just be proud of your country, just treat it nice, just treat it as you would do your own home.
Manager of Corporate Relations and Public Education at the EMA, Tisha Maraj, says the collection of such an amount of litter is a clear indication of the need to take a new approach in sensitizing citizens on the importance of keeping our beaches clean.
And that's a clear indication of that lots of things need to be done in collaboration with each other as well. One being, of course, a proper management plan for dealing with litter on the beach, involving agencies such as the EMA, but of course agencies that are responsible for things like litter, enforcement of the Litter Act, employing more police officers to man the beach. The EMA, of course, has recognized that this is a problem, and we are also increasing our police officers to assist in these issues.
The program, which is in its 9th year, saw over 1,000 pounds in garbage collected along the Manzanilla coastline and saw over 200 volunteers participate along a 1-mile route. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Ministry of the People and Social Development has launched its latest program aimed at reducing poverty, called Poverty Reduction Through Empowerment Social Strategies, or Press On. The program involves moving from welfare to work.
Speaking at the launch of the Press On program, also known as the Poverty Reduction Program in Cocorite, Minister of the People and Social Development, Dr. the Honorable Glenn Ramadasing, says the program ensures that people in the community can read and write.
Press On means poverty reduction through empowerment social strategies. Press On. It is the new phase of development from the Direct Impact program. It involves moving from welfare to work to ensure that the people in our community can read, they can write, and they can calculate numbers, which is called alphanumeric literacy.
He tells the people of Cocorite that there are also plans to set up homework centers in the area and to work towards food security by ensuring residents can start and maintain their own backyard gardens so they can have basic food supplies.
You can have a backyard garden or a front porch garden, as it may be, so you can have basic foodstuffs grown right in your neighborhood. and in your home. The URP Social, the ADB, and NAMDEVCO are partnering with us to help us with that. We have brought the Ministry of Tertiary Education. Today, the ministry is out here in full force to engage all the youths who want to get involved in constructive activity.
He says the program will also target women in the community.
We have invited civil society. We are promoting health in this community through the HEAL campaign, healthy eating, active lifestyle. You will see the ministry buses and personnel outside. And we are deformalizing programs with accepted norms to further inform and educate.
Another initiative the ministry is embarking on is a DJ competition, as it seeks to deformalize programs to further inform and educate the population.
You will not be able to compete unless you do basic electronics, basic electrical, and some journalism done in joint with radio stations, radio personalities, and the IBC. Give them a round of applause. The International Broadcasting Corporation.
Press On also aims to connecting communities with relevant government agencies to address these concerns. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
In related news, aid has been delivered to dozens of affected families. They are residents of South Trinidad who are still reeling from the widespread damage of Sunday's freak storm. Minister of the People, Dr. the Honorable Glenn Ramadasing, visited the train line in Marabella, where he handed out hampers to those hardest hit, some who lost everything.
For the residents living at the train line, life is a struggle to survive. They are trying to cope with the aftermath of the devastating freak storm. Debris and other materials remained scattered at the train line, reminding them of the terrible ordeal that almost took with it their lives. However, there is a flicker of hope.
Together with this temporary food card to help you to get back some stuff that you'll need, I also brought a little hamper of goods here to help you. And I have my technical people from the URP Social and the Social Welfare that will look at how we could give some assistance in some way to help you to get back, into a house.
Minister of the People, Dr. Glenn Ramadasing, visited affected families, distributing hampers to some 14 households.
The ministry is here, Ministry of the People, with our social welfare officers who will examine on a case-by-case basis as to how we can best help them to get back on their feet. We will be able to provide some support from the URP Social. We will liaise with the councillor to find out how much help we can get from the local government authority.
During the tour of the area, Dr. Ramadasing also stopped at this house, which 63-year-old Anand Rampasad and his disabled female relative call home. Dr. Ramadasing says his ministry will stop at nothing to ensure families recover fully.
In disasters, especially along the coastline, you find the most vulnerable and at risk facing these difficulties. And when that happens, that's tenfold the challenge that will beset them than a family that is in a middle-income home. And so we have to be here for them, because this can lead to severe social consequences, and more social ills can come out of this period. So we will give that support in terms of rental assistance grant for those who want to rent for a temporary period until their home is rebuilt. We will make the necessary recommendations to government agencies such as the HDC. But in the interim, we can provide labor and some amount of material support, both from the private sector and from government agencies in the way of self-help to assist the villagers in this community.
Mr. Rampasad recalls the terrifying experience, which he fears will remain etched in his memory, and sought to thank the government for responding quickly to their pleas for help. He also expressed his gratitude to News 4 for highlighting the residents' woes.
I appreciate the good work that you all are doing. The help we need is minor down here, and I appreciate whatever help we get. Take me wood shop today, I need a little help on that. I have no income to come at my age. And the Madam Chair and pension, I 60 going. So again, I say thank you for this visit. And I want all to do the best what they're doing and keep doing it. As the media, are doing a good job.
Turning his attention to Diego Martin disaster victims, Dr. Ramadar Singh says the ministry has so far spent nearly $4 million in providing social support to affected residents. Joseph Lopez, News 4.
Sport is next after the break. Football holds the focus in our sportscast. Joe Public FC will meet Stokely Vale FC for the knockout championship of the Blink B-Mobile National Super League after they advanced out of the last four on the weekend. The experienced campaigners ousted two of the league's newer teams, and set up what should be an interesting clash. Wayne Cunningham has the highlights from the semi-finals.
Super League newcomers FC Santa Rosa faces seasoned Stokely Vale FC at the Hazley Crawford Stadium for a place in the final of the knockout competition. The Tobago squad was eager to get back in the final after coming in second in 2011, a season dominated by Joe Public. Santa Rosa was without inspirational midfielder Simba Aberdeen, but looked threatening early. Vernon Mills was expected to do much better here after getting a favourable bounce. Stokely Vale also had some sights at goal, and Andrew Durant had to be alert to stop this effort from Dominic McDougall to keep the score at 0-0 in the first half. Things continued that way for most of the second half, with both teams getting close. It was not until the 71st minute the deadlock was broken, Tyrone Manning slipping in to score for Stokely Vale. It was Manning again 10 minutes later, as he scores to put the Tobago team in the final for the second successive year. Joe Public FC were also looking for a return to the final when they came up against Westside Superstars in semi-final number 2. Public went ahead in the 3rd minute after Richard Griffith was fouled in the area and Jamel Lewis stepped up and easily slotted home the penalty. The Mokoya team went in search of more, but a header from Alfie James sailed over the crossbar. Ricardo Bennett should have done better after good work from James. The attacks from Westside were few and far between. Much more was expected of leading goal scorer Kareem Freitas here. The Northern team will have to wait until the second half to restore parity. Second penalty of the match, awarded by referee Siobhan Wilson. Troy Thompson doing the honours in the 50th minute, 1-1 the score. Westside were claiming another spot kick here, but 1-1 is how it would stay, and kicks from the penalty mark would decide the second semi-final. Both teams were hitting well early in the shootout. Then the shortest keeper in the league and last year's MVP, Javon Bourne, saves to give his team the advantage. Donovan Derrick did not let his captain's heroics go unrewarded. It's a repeat of last season's final, Stokely Vale versus Joe Public in Tobago on Sunday. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break. The Cuba Tabaqui Talparo Regional Corporation held its annual awards ceremony on the weekend. The awards were held to recognize achievements, outstanding feats, excellence, and sterling contributions of individuals and groups who would have played a very critical role in the development of Trinidad and Tobago over the past 50 years. Speaking at the award ceremony, Minister of Local Government and a Member of Parliament for Tabaquit, Dr. the Honorable Surajratan Rambachan, says the awardees' contributions were felt throughout the country, and as such, the awards are very much deserved.
In recognizing your awardees, you're paying tribute not just to them, but you're paying tribute to the ancestors. You're paying tribute to the traditions. You're paying tribute to the culture. You're paying tribute to the values, and you're paying tribute to the country. Your awardees have contributed in no small measure to the development of our people, to the development of our institutions in a most meaningful fashion. When you see the list of awardees and you recognize names like Mr. Kenneth Lala, who has contributed to law and to the development of the legal institutions in this country, to constitutional thought, when you see names like Professor Narayan Singh, when you see names like Mr. Zawar Baksh and others, you begin to recognize that their contribution go way beyond the boundaries of the Cuba Tabaqui Talparo Regional Corporation.
Minister Rambachan suggests the country has achieved so much over the past 50 years because of persons similar to those who have been awarded by the corporation. He emphasizes the need for citizens to put country before self. This, he says, allows us to unite despite our differences and leads to unity in diversity. Dr. Rambachan says we are unique as Trinbagonians, as that distinct aspect of our culture is something which many nations have not been able to accomplish.
We are where we are today as a nation because together as a people, we have always kept country first and self after. And maybe that is something many would not agree with me, but I feel very deeply in my heart that the people of Trinidad and Tobago have, at the times when it was most necessary, placed country first and self after. Had this not been a characteristic of our behavior as a people, we would not have progressed as well as we have done. We have as a people, despite our diversity, despite our complex social composition, and the related challenges that emanate from that, we have achieved more unity than most nations of the world similar to us. Over these 50 years, we have learned how to enjoy diversity, how to celebrate diversity, how to use diversity for the progress of the nation. We have learned how to respect differences. We have learned to be many, but yet be one. One people, one nation.
The Tabaquit MP is also calling for the concept of being a good citizen to be taught from as early as preschool. He adds it is important that we fully understand what it means to be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago if we are to mold the country into what we would like it to be. He explains that being a good citizen takes more than simply loving one's country.
I think it is important for us to deepen our concept of citizenship or citizenry. We must now begin a new conversation in the society of what it really means to be a citizen. We must take this conversation to the schools. We must take it even to the early childhood centers. We must take it to the community centers. We must, in our homes, begin to discuss what does it really mean to be a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Defend your country, yes. Love your country, yes. Develop the spirit of neighborliness, yes. Take responsibility for the children of our nation, yes. Be mentors to our youth, yes. But perhaps most importantly, be an exemplar of the human values you want to see in this nation.
The awards were part of the corporation's continued 50th independence anniversary celebrations. Meanwhile, the prelude to the awards came in the form of a celebration through the streets of Cuba. Members of the Defense Force came out in their numbers to march in recognition of this country's 50th independence anniversary. Citizens and students got a chance to see the many brave men and women that serve in our protective services. We leave you with some of the highlights of the parade. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you so much for joining us.